Brother, may I have some?
Slop.
No. I am starving, brother. As am I, brother. The tall, skinny figure has thrown the
Content slop.
at me. Me, brother.
Hey guys, Majin Obama here coming at you, and I want to talk to you guys about the EVO Japan registration numbers for 2026 and the discussions that we could have about this, man. Like, take a look at these final numbers and the way they ended up, right? And we could talk about, like, Master Cup wrapped up a month ago with regards to Tekken 8, and that had over 235 five-man teams sign up. You had Master Cup Try on the back of that with over 300, closer to 400 people that ended up signing up, if I'm not mistaken. And this is the final numbers for the single entry tournament here at EVO Japan. We can talk about the disparity between those and, like, the role that pot monsters, you know, people who don't necessarily hop into the events expecting to win or anything like that, but enter in spite of that. You know, we could talk about that. We could talk about the amount of DQs they anticipated in this event for each respective title. This is a big thing that also ties into foreign entrants versus domestic entrants and how some games are more popular overseas than they are domestically and vice versa. And in the background, how the global economy is going to affect that and how different things are now from, like, 2019 compared to, like, post-corona era now, and then with all the crazy stuff that is going on in other places in the world and how that's going to affect travel costs. The big thing that's going to stand out is, like, especially when you look at it in a pie graph form like this, Street Fighter 6 in Japan. I've been covering it on this channel for years at this point, not just me either, by the way. You know, Yuna's talked a lot about it on his channel, etc. Definitely think that post Capcom Cup this year, you guys are a little bit more seeing the vision now, like, oh yeah, they really just care about Japan. And my question, there are a ton of conversations we can have about that, right? Like, is this good? Is this a good thing for the genre? It's a great thing for Street Fighter, no doubt, right? But is this necessarily healthy? I have my doubts. But here's the thing, we're not going to talk about any of that. You know why? And look, I normally avoid this kind of stuff, but when y'all plaster me on thumbnails, slander my name, and the way this came off is oddly personal, and I understand, you know, I'm talking about this, we're a few days into Tekken 8 Season 3, it's been rough, man, you know, like, there's been a lot of molding, it's really popular to get on here and get really, really negative, but that's a separate discussion again from the one we're going to talk about. You know why? Because a couple months ago, EVO registration happens in phases, where in the beginning, typically they'll offer incentives for you to register early. Incross makes a tweet about it, showcasing the numbers, because for some reason, EVO Japan has this thing where they'll show actually registrants. I don't know why, but people took that and were running with it. I saw some crazy stuff that's being discussed. Look, man, throw the thumbnails up, man. Like, you can just type in EVO Japan registration number in YouTube, and, like, this is the stuff they'll give you. They throwing me on thumbnails saying I'm coping, and I made some comments on this too, and that's really what some of this was based on. And again, like, normally I don't talk about this kind of stuff because I don't like to contribute to that. Here's the thing though, man, is in the end, when we look at the end of registration now, we're 3 months down the line, I want you to ask yourself, was any of that real? Does it matter? When you look at the numbers now, you had people taking pre-registration numbers and just driving it in whatever direction they wanted to, conversation, narrative-wise, whatever. And it's, again, my thing is, today, none of that mattered. None of it mattered. It's just, like, useless discourse. It's just slop, dude. The FGC is supposed to stand for community. Every day I'm thinking the C stands for something different. Today I'm looking at it, content slop. Fighting game content slop. And we're the fucking pigs, dude. So my thing is this. There are a few points that people were pointing out about this stuff, just off the top of my head, right? They're talking about using pre-reg numbers as a reference to shit on Mortal Kombat when we have years of data on Mortal Kombat, and it's not even like anything against it either. My thing is with MK, you know what you're getting into. You hop into it, you know it's going to be hopping for 18 months to 24 months, then the next game comes out. That's not even necessarily a bad thing, it's just how it is. And that's just like how the community is with it. In spite of how successful it is on a mainstream level. You know, one of the most, like, who is even debating that? Tekken is a popular one, obviously, because, like I said, Season 3 just came out, especially. Not really the best reception, and they're kind of... I see a lot of people trying to use that as ways to, like, talking about Tekken in Japan versus, like, MK. I don't... There's no connection there. And in the end, it's like, you can't really compare anything to Street Fighter 6 because of a lot of reasons. The way that game works here, the systems that are put into place, the marketing power, the lightning in a bottle kind of effect, and the way this worked out. We've been covering it for years here on this channel, on Giuna's channel. Pretty much all fighting games not Street Fighter 6 are kind of in a similar boat, to be honest with you. And one of the things that really kind of bugged me about this was people using Vampire Savior and their community rallying. That's an old game, man. That's a damn near 30, we're going like 28 years old, 30, oh, damn near 30. And they're using a small community like that rallies its numbers the second that they're given a big stage for the first time in Japan in like 22 years. I think it was like at SBO 2004. That was the last like big stage that it had like that. That community stays around in spite of that. They rally their numbers, and people are using their success and their community drive to like shit on something else. That's not how that should work. Evo Japan's a weird event where when you want to talk about certain topics with it, there's a few things you have to understand with it. First of all, the way monetization is working with this event. Ticket sales is a new thing. It's only been a thing for, I think, 3 years at this event, and every year the format changes. That's important because traditionally this event suffers from a lot of like DQs because it was free to enter before. So you would see some games with like a lot of numbers, but then the actual amount of people, just because, again, if it's free to enter, it's really easy for you to just sit there and be like, oh, I'll be in Japan in 4 months. Sure, I'll sign up. And then stuff happens, you don't go, whatever, right? That is its own like kind of conversation. It makes like doing analysis kind of hard, I think, on numbers for this event. But the thing is, we're not even going to get to talk about all that because in the end, here's my thing, man. It's like, simply speaking, it's normal, actually, if you, and we have data to prove this. Historically, it is normal for games to have lower entry and attention as time goes on. That's more common than the opposite. So for example, like Tekken 7, how it had a couple years year-on-year growth in terms of tournament entry numbers. Smash Ultimate, I believe, is also the case. Street Fighter 6 for sure is this case. And that was a big question that we had going into this year. Like, man, they had over, what, 6,600 entrants last year at Evo Japan. What's that going to look like this year? Is that like, was that the peak? Is it peaking now? It looks like it's peaking now because it ended up hitting the cap. And that's another cause for discussion. Again, it's like when you have an event where they announced immediately with registration open, they're going to cap Street Fighter 6. The reason why it drove the numbers up so high in early reg was because the players in that community know there is a real liability, there's a real chance that it could have capped out, and it did. So they were right. That sense of urgency didn't necessarily feel the same way for communities like Strive, City of the Wolves, Tekken 8, because you got to remember, like, we're in December, we're talking about the finals, then we have Master Cup that happens, Arc World Tour just wrapped up. When communities are focused on like tours and circuits, other events, it's really easy, I think, speaking just from experience, for people to kind of get distracted until like, oh, that's the next thing, when's the deadline, let me hop in there. I can tell you from experience too, and I said this in the tweet as well, I'm not gonna, like, I can't get proof on the time that people register on StartGG, but I can tell you from experience, especially like Tekken players especially, but other communities as well, they kind of have some tendencies to wait until the last minute to sign up and decide if they want to type it. Anyway, all of that discussion that we could have about those things, we're not going to have it. You know why? Because we're too busy talking about how, guess what, guys? At the conclusion of a registration period, it turns out more people register for something than the end of reg than at the beginning. Man, what a crazy concept. You wait until the end of a ball game to talk about the final score and not at halftime. Insane, I know. Man, cope, shill, etc. Seethe, mauled, whatever you gotta go. I just don't get it, man. In the end, it's like, this game dead, that game dead, oh my god, when the actual numbers don't even reflect that in the end, in these like the narrative, whatever fan fiction you want to push. And mind you, this isn't exclusive to FGC, this is like a YouTube content issue in general. I think we're just witnessing a microcosm of it. But it's like, when in the end, 2 weeks late, 2 days down the line, 2 weeks down the line, 2 months down the line, that thing was not even true, didn't even really matter. What are we talking about here? And so my thing is, I think it's easy to end up forcing a conversation out of feeling of concern, but maybe you have bad understanding, or if you feel bad about something, so you react to bad thing, right? But in the end, if it's not even real, what is the point, dude? To me, it just looks like recession indicator. Just looks like the rent is due. And it just looks like fucking slop, bro. And again, where's the accountability? Like, real talk, I'm trying to be less, one of my goals this year is I want to be less pretentious. I'm trying to be more humble. But like, when I said this, and I made this call on like certain community registration number, again, based on just stuff that I know. I know, like, man, this community is going to have, like, they get this many people out for this kind of event, and this event is treated as almost like a class reunion kind of thing. They're going to probably get about this much. Or this community is a smaller scene, but they're scrappy. If you give them a stage, they're going to go ham for it, right? Just from my experience, I just made some calls on that, and some turned out to be correct. Others turned out to be a pleasant surprise. Bro, Vampire Savior pushing that game over 300, like, that's crazy. In modern day, for this to be hitting that number, that's an old game, no support, no tour. None of these guys have names on the backs of their jerseys. This is just players who like that game, and you give them a stage, and it's like throw a dog a bone. There's no accountability with this stuff. I don't want to make it personal or anything like that. Again, like, people got stuff to say about me, that's fine. But what I want to say is, I'll say it like this. First of all, to the creators that push this kind of, that do this kind of stuff, I don't care about the new release of this mod that blah, 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 blah. I don't care about this arbitrary campaign based on bad proofs, even if you have the right answer, and that's a discussion we could have. If it's based on false evidence, like, it just falls apart. I want to know more about shit that these creators actually care about. I want to know more about what these creators actually give a shit about, what makes them actually happy, why they even care about fighting games. That is the kind of stuff that I want to see from people more. Why? Because that's the kind of stuff that pushes the culture forward. When we look at this slop, bruh, ask yourself in current, like, what is this doing to push the culture forward? And then I want to turn to the audience too. Because in this example, are you satisfied with being a pig at the trough? I want to show you this tweet that kind of popped up in this conversation that was around it, and it was somebody hating on one of these content creators, right? And I said, like, bruh, to be honest with you, you can clown him, but it also says a lot about the audience, because if it's always just this, like, sometimes synthesized drama cycles, if that's all it's based on, and he deleted the tweet, but what he said was, he was saying, it's all drama, bro. It's all drama. It's all slop. It doesn't matter. I'm like, that's the mentality that they have. To which I say, like, if that's how it is for you, that's cool. But I'm just not interested, man. And I'm not a pig. I'm not a pig, bro. I can't get hyped to that shit. That shit is not hype. It's all drama. That's the rationale that they approach this with. It's all drama. This is drama. It's all drama. And I'm just like, man, if that's your rationale for this, I'm good, bro. I'm good. So my question to the audience and to you guys watching, are you cool with just being a pig? Or do you want more from the people that make stuff about your scene? Because I like to think that we're better, but maybe I'm dead wrong. You guys let me know in the comments below. I'm gonna holler at y'all later.